It only took me 5 minutes in the Ackland Museum of North Carolina at Chapel Hill to find the painting The Sword of Damocles by Richard Westall. I was immediately interested in the painting, mainly because of the artist's choice of color in the oil painting. After studying the painting for about 10 minutes, I began to have some questions regarding the origins of the painting. Why was there a dangling sword above the young man's head? Why does everyone in the painting have a smirk on their face? And finally, what is the story behind this painting? After research, I found out that there is more to the painting than what can be seen. The Sword of Damocles, which was painted by Richard Westall, is a painting based on an ancient Greek anecdote whose main theme is that those in power are constantly under pressure and anxiety from imminent danger. The Sword of Damocles has become a phrase in art, literature, and culture to describe any situation with a sense of impending doom. The Sword of Damocles was painted by the artist Richard Westall. Richard Westall was born on January 2nd, 1765, in Norfolk. Richard Westall was the more successful of two half-brothers. He moved to London in 1772 after his mother died and his father became bankrupt. He was encouraged to become a painter and began studying at the Royal Academy School of Arts. His work in watercolor caused great interest in the late years of the 18th century. He was most known for his portrait of Princess Victoria. Once Princess Victoria became queen, she appointed Richard Westall as her art teacher for 8 years before his death. He remained a bachelor for all of his life, but was once engaged to a Miss Bennet. He died on the 4th of December, 1836, at his home. His reputation before his death was low. It had begun to decline after 1815. Queen Victoria was quoted as saying that the once popular and successful painter had died by the cold penury oppressed. Richard Westall based the painting on a single moral anecdote referred to as the Sword of Damocles, which was a late addition to classical Greek culture. The anecdote was a part of the Lost History of Sicily by Timaeus of Tauromenium, and the Roman orator Cicero used this anecdote in his Tusculanian Disputations, a book in which he disputed that virtue is sufficient for living a happy life. Damocles, the one sitting on the throne, was the obsequious courtier in the court of Dionysius II of Syracuse, the 4th century BC tyrant of Syracuse, Sicily. Dionysius II can be seen standing above Damocles in the painting. The anecdote begins with Damocles exclaiming to Dionysius that he was truly extremely fortunate for being powerful and surrounded by luxury. In order to teach Damocles a lesson, Dionysius offered to switch places with Damocles so that he could taste the very fortune firsthand. Damocles quickly and eagerly accepted the king's proposal. He sat down on the king's throne, surrounded by every luxury. But Dionysius arranged that a huge sword should hang above the throne, held at the pommel by only a single hair of a horse's tail. Damocles finally begged the tyrant that he be allowed to depart because he no longer wanted to be so fortunate, realizing that with great fortune and power comes also great peril and anxiety. The anecdote successfully conveyed the sense of the constant fear in which the great man lives. Famously, Cicero used this story as the last in a series of contrasting examples for the theme that virtue is sufficient for living a happy life. Judge no one happy until his life is over, which is a familiar theme in Greek and Roman philosophical writing. The sword of Damocles is frequently used in allusions as the imminent and ever-present peril faced by those in the position of power. The phrase has also come to be used describing any situation with a sense of impending doom, especially when the peril is visible and close at hand. There are many examples where the sword of Damocles is used in order to express a sense of fear. A more modern example would be when American President John F. Kennedy compared the omnipresent threat of nuclear annihilation during the Cold War to a sword of Damocles hanging over the people in the world. Although not all the people in the world had power or had luxury, the main idea of a threat that they could not control was similar to the threat experienced by Damocles in the anecdote. The Special Air Service uses the flaming sword of Damocles as their insignia. From this picture, you can see that the insignia there is a dangling sword of Damocles with wings around the sword. The SAS was a specialized command unit created by the British in World War II. When I first saw the painting of the Sword of Damocles, I had many unanswered questions. I had no idea that I had stumbled upon a painting that was based on a Greek anecdote whose cultural, artistic, and literary impacts were far greater than I had expected.